Hi, how are you? I want to talk today about leading during this crisis. Yesterday, I was asked to speak to the senior Texas water leaders on this very topic, and due to outrageous technical difficulties, we weren't able to record it. But I didn't want to not give you an opportunity to hear what we talked about. What I've been reflecting on is actually that leadership is everyone's business. It's not just the person on the top of the org chart. We are leading in every area of our lives, whether it's in our family, our work environment, the communities we're connected to. All of us have an opportunity to lead. And as I was reflecting on that earlier this morning, I got the coolest quote from Clarissa Pinkola Estes. You may remember her. She wrote the book, Women Who Run with the Wolves. And I'd like to just read it to you. It says, for years we have been learning, practicing, been in training for, and just waiting to meet on this exact plane of engagement. I cannot tell you often enough that we are definitely the leaders we have been waiting for, and that we have been raised since childhood for this time precisely. Whew. Boom. So I've been coaching leaders for almost 30 years, and often it's around the topic of change and transition, because that's, like it or not, become my field of expertise. So much so that I just published a book in January called The Wisdom of Transition, Navigating Change. Well, what I'm aware of with coaching all the leaders this past month, many are sharing with me that they almost feel like they're air traffic controllers operating a command desk, having to be ever vigilant in front of their computer, in front of their phone, maybe taking 15 minutes to grab a quick lunch over the sink, and then they're back at it doing 12-hour days. Many of the leaders I work with have said, Cheryl, I just can't keep up this pace. I'm exhausted and I'm running on fumes. Well, it reminded me of what I wrote about in the book. Namely, when there's a major change that is thrust upon us, one we didn't ask for, one that was unexpected, it triggers this internal process called transition, where it seems as if 40% of our normal smarts, our normal ability to focus, our normal bandwidth is preoccupied, subsumed, gone. And we're operating with only 60% of ourselves, which feels truly disorienting. Well, add to that, if you're in a leadership role and you're attempting to give and give and give and starting to feel like a public utility, how are you replenishing? How are you getting energy back in your tank so that you can continue to stay the course? I think that most of us thought that when this began, it would be like a sprint. Well, I would offer the idea that I feel like it's more like a marathon, where you have to pace yourself along the way. You have to replenish along the way so that you can finish strong. Well, if we liken this to a marathon, then what are the ways that you can replenish yourself along the way? And I would suggest that you have to replenish yourself every single day. Matter of fact, I would suggest you replenish yourself in short breaks, maybe 2, 3, 4 times a day, so that you end your day just as buoyant as when you began it. So what the heck is a replenishing ritual? Well, I'll tell you. It's what are the quick, efficient things you can do to shift your thinking from all the thoughts and all the things you're doing at work into a place of peace? Is it listening to a favorite song that you get lost in? Is it playing the guitar for 10 minutes? Is it looking at family photos of a vacation to Hawaii? Looking at the sunsets and the sunrises and remembering how incredibly beautiful it was. Mine is so easy. It's my face in the sun for 10 minutes. If I can just get my face in the sun and breathe in that gorgeous vitamin D, I feel energized. I feel so good. And then it allows me to move back to the task at hand. I think a lot of people have got this idea that if they want to engage in altruism or selfless service or servant leadership, all which are gorgeous ideas, that they have to give, and put themselves last, that there's a nobility connected to that. Well, I think that's actually a fallacy in thinking. I think we have to actually recharge our own batteries first so that we actually have something to give, so that we don't feel grumpy or cranky or resentful because we're giving to everyone but ourselves. So I encourage you to take a moment right now. Think about what are the things I can do every day during the workday where I can recharge my battery, where I can fill my tank and feel good again, right? There are 4 other things I talk about in the book that I want to just mention now. That it's really perfect when we're in this in-between phase between the ending and the new beginning, which I think many of us are. And that is to make sure that you're carving out time for yourself, whether it's a walk around your house, whether it's taking time to journal, whether it's taking time to meditate or pray, whether it's time to reach out to family and friends and Zoom with them, whether it's reading a book or a poem that you love. What is it? Carve out time for yourself every day. Maybe you even want to schedule it. The second thing is give yourself recognition. These are extraordinarily hard times. I would imagine you are stretched beyond capacity. If you give yourself recognition, that's saying internally, good job. You're doing such a good job. You knocked that out of the park. I'm so proud of you. I know it's not easy, and I'm so impressed. So give yourself recognition. Third, cultivate your inner advocate. Gosh, I know we all have an inner critic. This is the opposite. An inner advocate is one who advocates for you. Make sure that you're setting boundaries, taking the time that you need, keeping a keen eye on what you need, and making sure that it's being provided. And then finally, show yourself compassion. Show yourself compassion. It's proven that we can't give genuine, heartfelt compassion to others unless we're giving it to ourselves first. To thine own self be true. I liken it to the airplane example where the person over the loudspeaker says, in case of emergency, put your oxygen mask on yourself first and then help those around you. Well, I'd say these are emergency times. Make sure, metaphorically and maybe even literally, that you're putting the oxygen on yourself first so that you can show compassion and give to others. So I want to just talk briefly about emotional intelligence and look at it through this lens of being in the in-between zone. And so you'll remember that emotional intelligence is 4 quadrants. It starts with the self-awareness. Am I aware when I'm tired and I need to go take a nap? I need an adult timeout. I need a break. Followed by self-management. Am I actually doing what I know I need to be doing right now? Am I taking impeccable care of myself? Followed by an awareness of others. So at the top, there's an awareness of others. Are you aware of how all the different folks in your family and the people you lead, how they are different, what they need? Does Jenny need to withdraw to gather herself in and to find a sense of center and focus? Does John need time with others? Is he an extrovert? Does he need connection with others to recharge his battery? Be aware of others and how they're different from you and what they need. And then finally, how do you be in relationship with others? How do you lead others who are different from you? If you're a leader who's used to walking around to take the temperature of all of your people, you can't really do that right now. I mean, I guess you could knock on people's door, but I would imagine they wouldn't answer. It's how can you lead others from afar? Whether it's an email that you send every Monday or Friday, is it doing FaceTime with people who you know really need to connect? One of the companies that I work with, I love this. They've started every Friday almost like a newscast, and the general manager and one of his division directors will wear bow ties, and they'll talk about good news that's happening within the organization, and they'll share current projects and how they're proceeding, and it's just a lot of fun. And neither of them went to school to be broadcast journalists, but they're making it fun, and it's a beautiful way for everyone to tune in and hear directly from them how it's going. So I would say that most of us are in the place of the in-between zone and are probably getting pretty close to acceptance if we're not already there. And in my book, I write that acceptance gives you the power and the resourcefulness to move forward. Isn't that something when we can accept it and go, you know what? I didn't want this, I didn't ask for it, but I need to embrace it. I need to accept it. I need to welcome it, because only by doing that am I imbued with the resourcefulness and the power to move forward. And if we're leading during this crisis, we have to find a way to accept what is. That's often followed by new insights. You may be already having them. It's those amazing, seemingly miraculous flashes of insight where you say, wow, I hadn't even thought of that. Like many of the leaders I'm talking to now are saying, we have struggled for years to figure out how to telecommute. And it's just always been on the back burner, someday maybe. Now everybody's having to telecommute. And now many of the leaders are saying, how does this inform all the real estate that we own, all the bricks and mortars, all the individual offices that we have for people? I was talking to a president and CEO of a company just yesterday, and he said, Cheryl, we have 20 offices, and I'm in the mothership, the home office, and I walk around the floors, and it's dark and cold. He said, I'm going to be very keenly interested to look at gross margin in 4 to 6 months to discern, were we just as productive? Were we able to hit the same results? If so, then what does that say about us needing to work from the office? Might it be even more efficient for us to sometimes work from home? So I would say that many leaders are asking themselves the same question. How might we do business in the future based upon what we've learned now? And then if you look at the model I share, you realize that you're headed directly to discovery, which is uncovering things that may have already been there. But to do that, you have to approach it with curiosity and an open mind and receptivity. And then finally, where we're all headed eventually, is the new beginning. And with that is a sense of new purpose. Everyone I've coached is saying, work-life balance. I have a whole different feeling about it now. Getting to spend 3 whole weeks with my family is so sacred, challenging, but also I'm getting to know my family in a whole new way. How might I like to continue that? And what's my sense of purpose? Why am I here? What have I been called for? I want to conclude with the same author that I quoted a moment ago, Clarissa Pinkola Estes, and I'm going to read it. So she says, in my uttermost bones, I know something, as do you. It is that there can be no despair when you remember why you came to earth, who you serve, and who sent you here. The good words we say and the good words we do are not ours alone. They are the words and the deeds of the one who brought us here. I have to just say, since the emergency surgery and the near-death experience that I had, I feel this so keenly. I feel in my bones that this is the time that we all came here for, to rise to our very best selves, to give to others in unexpected and joyous ways, and to enter into altruism and selfless service. But the reminder is, you can't keep giving to others unless you give to yourself first. Thank you for this time together. We'll talk again soon.